Hi, welcome back. So we're going to talk a lot this time about universal apps, and we're also going to talk about how model view controller plays into those design patterns. Some of the apps we're going to do kind of something where we learn about class sizes. That's this little any thing down here. We're going to do a tic-tac-toe game that really uses model view controller, and then your lab is going to be a linear lights out. And we're going to set up both this tic-tac-toe and linear lights out to work on a variety of different screen sizes between iPhone and iPad both. So we're going to be learning a lot of things. By the end of this unit, you should understand a thing called size classes really well. Vocab word that you probably don't know yet. You will by the end of this, I assure you. A lot about using model view controller to kind of design your apps, and then also making iPhone, iPad UI design changes. So what I want to do to kind of get started is to start talking about universal apps and what it means to be an iPhone only, an iPad only, or a universal app. So what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and open up XCode and create a new project. If you've got this screen open, great. You can click on Create a New XCode Project, or you can use the drop down from the menu. So for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to select Single View Application, and we're going to call it Size Classes. And what we're going to do is we're going to discuss what happens if we say universal, iPhone, or iPad. What I want you to say for right now is universal, and go ahead and click Next. And you can save it wherever you like. So when your project opens up, it'll show you by default the settings that are displayed for you. You can always get back to the settings by clicking on this top icon. And it turns out that the single view template, the only thing it does for you by setting that universal is actually it just sets this value right here. There's actually no other differences in this template. Some other templates do a lot of crazy things. If you're an iPad, it'll do one thing, and an iPhone, it'll do something different. And we'll talk about that in the slides here in a second. But really this difference has to do with when you're in the store, what do you look like to people? So universal is available to everyone. You get a little like plus symbol, or at least you used to, saying you're a universal app. iPad apps are only available to iPad users. They don't show up for iPhone users. And iPhone apps, what they do is they show up just fine for iPhone users, but iPad users can actually use them as well. You just get this zooming behavior, which we'll talk about. So just to kind of learn more about it, let's actually go into the storyboard, and let's make a couple really simple changes. So the first simple change that I want to make is I want to go ahead and give my view, so I've selected the view here, a background color. You can make it any color you like. Lately I've been using this kind of like, I don't know, greenish, light green color as my views. So that's what mine looks like. And then what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add a label to this guy. So I'm just going to do a search for labels, put my zoom back to 100% so that I can add it. And what I want to do is I want to add this label. I'm just going to drop it right in the middle. I'm going to make this label say Hello World. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some constraints for this guy. So I'm going to go ahead and add the constraints that he's got a width and a height of 300 by 300. So he's just going to be a perfect square. I'm going to go ahead and give him a background color just so that I can see him. You can make your background color whatever you like. I'll just pick some crayon here. I'll go with carnation. That's a nice manly color. So it's still yelling at me because it doesn't know where to put itself, right? And what I want to do is I just want to center it in the view. There's a bunch of ways to do that. You can right-click, drag if you want to do that, and you can say center horizontally in container. You can also select it, and you can go through the menu, editor, align, and then here's a vertical in container. Once you've got it where you want it, you can fix it. The shortcut key, by the way, is Option-Command equals. That's just a little bit faster than actually clicking on the yellow circle and then the yellow triangle and then saying fix. What I'd like to do next is I'd like to go ahead and center this thing up, and I'd like to make my font bigger. It'll probably kind of pop off my screen a little bit here. But I'm just going to change the size here. Sorry, you can't see it. I'm just going to say 50. And so if you could have seen it, you could see that 50 does this. So go ahead and follow along and go ahead and do these things. And then what we want to do is we're a universal app, right? So I want to see, hey, what does this thing look like on a small iPhone? So I picked iPhone 4S, and I went ahead and kicked off the simulator. It turns out that on a pretty small phone, the dimensions are 320 wide by 480 tall. And you can see that a rectangle that's 300 wide, it actually comes pretty close to the borders here, right? Whereas if you were to display the same app on, say, one of the iPads, it doesn't matter which iPad you use. I'm going to select iPad 2 here. That same 300 pixels is actually going to appear, very small in the middle. So there's a lot of border around it. And to be honest, that's probably exactly what you expect. If you rotate it, it's still centered. Now, I said that if you were an iPhone app, you would actually still show up on an iPad. And I just wanted you to make you aware of what the difference is. So go into your settings and say, hey, this is an iPhone-only app. If you were to run an iPhone-only app on an iPhone, it would look exactly the same. So it would be a 300 big, leave just a little bit of margin on the left and the right, so that no change there. But if you run an iPhone app on an iPad, you get a very different behavior. And so the behavior that you get is actually, it might be unexpected for you. And that's that your app shows up in a zoom mode, right? If you actually had an iPad, there would actually be a button in the corner here that says show it at a 1x zoom or a 2x zoom. And so it shows you the iPhone app either like the same size as an iPhone or zoomed in, which is what the simulator defaulted to. And so that's actually the behavior you would expect if you're an iPhone-only app. And so let's talk about some of those things. So I'll just kind of catch up the slides here a little bit. It looks like in the slide I mentioned that different templates do different things depending on what you select initially. So here's a master detail template, and you can see that it did different things with its storyboard depending on whether you said universal iPhone or iPad. Just a little detail I wanted to point out there. All right, so that's kind of the basics of what I wanted to cover this time. We'll come back next time and we'll talk more about the decisions you should think about if you want to be an iPhone, an iPad, or both. See you then.